Hello! Welcome to Strawberry's Gamer Society, streaming live 1 a.m. Pacific. Tonight's topic is going to be anxiety, which is a tough one and a big one, and I'm hoping I can do it proper justice. So here we go. First thing I need to do, though, is clean out this inventory and get myself some birchwood for some signs. How is everybody this evening or morning or whatever time of day it is for you? This is just my dump chest. I'm putting all sorts of things in here. I'm gonna need that later. I do not need these right now, and I missed the dirt. Where is it? Okay, I should have put all the dirt in this chest over here, but it will do. Next, let's... Oh, and I don't need these either. Okay. But I might need later. Okay, let's go get some wood. And let me move this just a tad so I can see better. I'm glad I found this birchwood on the expedition the other day so that I've got some wood to make lighter colored signs. I think the lighter colored signs are easier to read. Let's see here. Let me get some trees so I can replant in case we run out of signs later. So in the previous few days, we have covered the topics of sleeping, eating, exercise, and now we're going to cover what I consider to be the fourth big component of health, and that is mental health. The first big part of it is anxiety, and lots of people have difficulties with anxiety, especially now that we are in a worldwide pandemic. There are lots of things to be anxious about, and I suppose the most important thing, oops, I forgot to close my door. The most important thing to know is if you are experiencing anxiety. Actually, I'm going to use all of that. If you are experiencing anxiety, then if it's affecting your daily life, oh, hey, thank you for tuning in. I absolutely do not mind you tuning in. And it is fine to fall asleep while watching. There are several people who fall asleep while watching my stream, and I don't mind at all. If you decide later it's interesting, I repost them to YouTube. So thank you. I appreciate your support. And I think you were the last night in Dreams Offline chat. I got my 10th, 11th, and 12th subscriber. So now I can officially do like more things once I reached 10 subscribers. I think I can like designate VIPs and stuff. So that's kind of cool. I appreciate it. Let's see here. So what was I in the middle of doing? I was making signs, and I'm gonna wind up needing a lot of signs tonight. There we go. And, oh wait, these I want there, and this I want here. So I'm a little bit nervous about this topic because it's such a big, important topic, and I'm just a mom. I just give mom style advice. I am not a professional, so I want to make sure that I make it clear if problems are affecting your ability to cope, see a professional. There we go. So that is like number one on today's list of things. And I took a mental health first aid class once, and one of the things they said in that class is that most people who are having mental health problems have been experiencing them for 10 years or more before they seek professional help. And it's much easier to get help, or the help is like less invasive the earlier you start. So try not to hide it for 10 years that you're having problems before seeking help. You don't have to wait. It's kind of like having appendicitis. You don't want to wait until after your appendix is burst to go to the hospital. And hello, good morning to you, and good evening from me. So nice to see you in the chat this evening. And yeah, welcome. Tonight's topic is anxiety, and this one is a big one, and I have done, sort of a bunch of life experience in the past helping friends with it, but now I'm going to do my best to do it justice. I borrowed some material and did a lot of research on the internet, and I'm going to do my best as we go through this evening to share what I know and share sort of the mom advice on anxiety. Oh. You went 18 years before rushing for help. Yeah, well, I'm glad that you are able to get help. And hey, if you have anything to add in the chat that you want to share with others, then definitely be my guest. My understanding is that recovery is possible and that recovery is important, and a lot of times people who are experiencing anxiety feel like it's never going to end, but my hope is that everyone can get to that stage of recovery, and my understanding is that the longer you wait for help, the longer it takes to recover. So I guess the first place to start is what is anxiety? Because everyone has feelings of fear and nervousness and things like that from time to time. But when it gets overwhelming, oh, I didn't want to do that, did I? Okay. Sometimes I can go along this soul sand road and clip things out faster, and then I usually just wind up making a mess of the garden. So I'm not going to do that today. The night when I was streaming about sleep, I was trying to actually go exploring, and it wound up being quite a mess because I was unable to come up with coherent thoughts while doing difficult things in Minecraft at the same time. I'm still a baby streamer, and I'm still learning how. This talking takes an awful lot of my concentration and keeps sticking to an outline. And I did create an outline for this evening, and I realized that I have left it just out of my reach. So let me just get that. Yeah, pages and pages. I took pages and pages of notes, but where was I going to start? Okay, I was going to start with what is anxiety, and everybody has anxious feelings, but when those anxious feelings start to spiral out of control and continue and don't stop and they aren't helpful, like it's helpful to have, I'll just use an example of what first thing that comes to mind. It's helpful to have thoughts of, gee, I should try harder at this. So for preparing for my stream tonight, I was a little bit nervous about it. So I did a bunch of research, and then I also, in general, for preparing for streams every night, I have a checklist. Like literally there is a post-it note on my monitor which has my boot sequence of reboot your computer, then start up these windows and turn the sound this way so that I get it all together. Oh, hello, welcome to the stream. We could make it. And being a little bit nervous for something, that's good. It means that we try harder to do a good job. But when those feelings start to spiral out of control, then it goes from being a good feeling, like this is why humans have this feeling, is because it because it helps us be prepared for the unexpected. But when it starts to spiral out of control, then it becomes an unhelpful feeling. And an example of spiraling out of control would be if I was telling myself, oh no, I can't do this topic. It's too big. It's too hard. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I hurt somebody? Which, those are thoughts that I have, but not again and again and again, such that they become paralyzing, such that I decide not to do the stream. And, oh, hey, welcome. It's all right. I'm starting off kind of slowly, but yeah, tonight's topic is anxiety, and I am really glad you could make it this evening. We've got people who are here for the first time, and people who have been here for several streams, and people who have been here for almost every stream, which I really appreciate you guys' support, because this is fun for me, but it's only fun when there's people listening, who make it live. So yeah, back to anxiety, and when it becomes a problem is when it spirals out of control. Oh no. Yeah, that was going to be a problem. Oh well. We'll just pretend that there's not a big hole in the middle of the field. I don't think I can do that. Where are these creepers even coming from? Okay, I have an idea. Let's just sleep. Yes, so if you're just joining us, then the previous few nights we had eating, sleeping, exercise, and tonight is anxiety. But I'm going to get my Minecraft character to sleep so that I can make it a little bit easier on myself here and not have quite so much PvE going on. There we go. Let's fix up where that creeper just was. And, oh, come on. Get on the trail. There we go. So, this is when it helps to have a written outline so I can remember where I was. Okay, so yeah, back to recognizing what anxiety is and when you need to do something about it. And it's important to be able to recognize your own feelings and take stock and say, okay, is this meaningful planning that I'm doing here? That it's important to plan and be prepared for what I'm doing? Or are these thoughts and feelings that I'm having getting in the way of doing actual real planning? If I spend too much time worrying about whether or not I've done enough research and not enough time actually doing the research, then I need to consider, am I having a problem with this that I need to take steps to address? And let's see here. I'm definitely having a problem with creepers, aren't I? Okay, let's fix this up. So after you recognize, okay, I'm having some problems with anxiety, what do you do next? And one of the things that is recommended is to start out by analyzing yourself and saying, okay, I am recognizing that I am afraid or I am anxious and I am having these feelings. What is my body's physical response to those feelings? And different people will respond in different ways. And one of the reasons for doing this and saying, okay, what is my body's physical response and why am I responding this way, is because it helps get your brain out of that lizard brain fight or flight and into a human brain analyzing the situation. And even if the only thing that you're analyzing is, oh my gosh, I've noticed that my heart rate is significantly higher, or wow, my hands are starting to sweat. This must be making me really anxious. Then noticing those things and taking the time to notice those changes in your body will help you analyze them and get out of lizard brain fear mode and into human, I can do this. I am capable and I can handle this situation. And So that is the next step, is recognizing what's going on in your body. And then the step after that is saying, okay, now that I've noticed that my breathing has increased and my heart rate has increased, how am I going to deal with this? And so you can take a look at what are the feelings you are experiencing and do a little detective work. Work out, okay, so I am experiencing these feelings. I am experiencing these feelings, and are these feelings reasonable? And let me take just a second, and let's see here. No, yeah, this one's the seeds chest. Okay. And so, you need to do some detective work, and let's see here. Where's my detective work? My detective questions. Do I know for sure that this thing that I'm worried about is going to happen? Has that thing ever happened before to anyone else? Like, has anyone showed up for a speech naked, or something along those lines that is pretty ridiculous, but the kind of thing that sometimes people worry about? So has it ever happened before? What else might happen other than what I first thought? So ask yourself, is this if you're going on a plane ride and you're worried that the plane is going to crash, then one of the things that could happen is, yes, the plane could crash, or what else might happen? The plane might get to its destination just fine. So use some skills there to, oops, wrong chest. Use some critical thinking skills to think of another alternative. What could happen other than the worst thing that could possibly happen? What will happen if I keep telling myself the same thought? So again, to the plane ride example, if you're going on a plane ride and you're worried it's going to crash, if you keep telling yourself that same thought, oh no, the plane's going to crash, oh no, the plane's going to crash, is that going to help you? Or is that not going to help you? Will that help you deal with being on a plane and being afraid of it? Or will that just make you more and more afraid if you continue spiraling with those same thoughts again and again? Oops, I need more seeds. What happens if I run out of seeds while I'm planting? Well, I'll just have to go back and get more. It's not that bad. Is it night again? No. So you think about what happens if I keep telling myself the same thought, and consider how likely is it that what I think will happen will happen. I mean, plane crashes do happen, but they don't really happen all that often, and worrying about it isn't going to help the situation. But sometimes you can't stop yourself from worrying about it, and so the things I was going to talk about in the next couple of pages are like techniques that you can use to help yourself stop worrying. And again, if worry, let me put a sign at this end of the field as well, not just in the room. If worry and anxiety, anxiety are interfering, interfering, I don't spell very well, but we'll make do, are interfering with life. That's the first sign. Seek professional help. So there we go. And sometimes that's really hard to do, but sometimes it's an important thing to do if things are spiraling out of control. And then if the stream is like, you're like, ha, that's not my problem, yay, great. That is wonderful. I am happy for you that that is not your problem. But by listening to the stream, you can think, okay, how can I be there? I recognize some of this type of anxious thinking in my friends. How can I help my friends who are having these issues? And sometimes the way that you help people is by helping to direct them into professional help. And so that's what a mental health first aider does. Is it's like if somebody's having a heart attack, if you're a first aider, you don't fix the heart attack. You call 911 and you stay with the person until advanced medical help arrives. And being a mental health first aider, it's the same sort of thing. You can't fix the problem, but you can help transition the person to professional care by either helping them find the resources for somebody to see in your local area, or helping with, sometimes people need rides, and that sort of thing is a thing that you can do to help. And how do you be a good friend? There we go. Okay. And where was I? Okay, yeah. So that was what can you do to help if you're not experiencing these symptoms, but you want to be a good friend? Next is, what are some coping thoughts? So let's say you've recognized that you're having anxiety about an issue, and there's sort of 4 general ways that anxiety, okay, there's probably more than 4, but in the research I was doing, there were 4 generalized categories that it talked about. And number 1 is the catastrophizer, the pessimist, the person who thinks that the worst is going to happen. So this is the person who, to go back to the airplane example, they are worried that the airplane is going to crash when they take an airplane flight, even if it doesn't make sense that it might crash. And even if it was going to crash, there's nothing you can do about it anyway. Worrying that it's going to crash isn't going to stop it from crashing if it was going to crash anyway, but it's probably not. So the catastrophizer just keeps thinking of what is the absolute worst thing that could happen, and they don't plan for it in a constructive way. They just keep worrying about it. So planning for it in a constructive way would be doing things like making sure you've got your will in order, and letting your mom know you love her before you go on an airplane ride. Those are constructive things to do. But just worrying and then feeling anxious, feeling that clench in your gut, having the sweat happen, having your pulse rise, having all of those negative physical symptoms happen, doesn't actually do anything with respect to the fact that you need to be on an airplane, and doesn't fix anything. So that's the catastrophizer. And the number 2, the mind reader. Some people fall into this mind reader trap where they say to themselves, I know my boss isn't going to give me a raise. I know what my boss is thinking. Therefore, I'm not going to ask. I already know what's going to happen, and therefore I'm not even going to try. And the mind reader will fall into the trap of not trying things, which can be unhelpful and disruptive to your life. If you're thinking, I know this person, I don't know, if you're asking somebody out on a date or something, I know this person is going to say no, therefore I'm not even going to try. And that can be very disruptive. And you can miss out on many opportunities because you're experiencing this anxiety about what'll happen. And one of the things that you can do is say, well, what's the worst that can happen? They could say no. I mean, I could be right when I'm saying I know this, but you don't know that you're right until after you've actually asked. And, okay, let's put that away, and let's put the rest into the hopper. Chunk, 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 chunk. So, here, why don't we label, I'm going to put signs at the end of each row here. So the 4 negative kinds of thinking that we want to avoid are: avoid the catastrophizer. Catastrophizer. Avoid the catastrophizer. And we'll label this one avoid the mind reader. And the third one is the shooter. The shooter. So the shooter is a way of anxious thinking that you think, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, and you pressure yourself to behave in a certain way. And, oh, I should have made a will before I got on this airplane. I should have said this to that person. I should have said that to the other person. And, oops, wrong chest again. One day I'm going to put item frames on the outsides of these chests, so it's a little easier. Okay. And the shooter will sometimes it's good to think about, oh, I need to do this, I should do that. And it's good to think about it once, but if you find yourself paralyzed by, oh, I should do this, I should do that, and you just keep saying I should or I should have over and over and over again, but you either don't act on that thing that you know you ought to do, or you kind of know that it's a little bit ridiculous, like, oh, I should have, I don't know, done something so that I've got 1 million viewers in my first week streaming, or I should have done, if you sort of keep doing unreasonable expectations, then, oh, it's night again, isn't it? If you keep doing unreasonable expectations, then it's not useful thinking, and you have to figure out how to, every night ever, that's right. And you have to think about, okay, how do I get myself out of the unhealthy thinking and into a more healthy way of thinking? Like, so coping strategies for me, when those types of thoughts come into my head, then I've got on my phone, there's an app called Trello, which helps basically keep track of to-do lists and things, and I've got it on my phone. And if I think about something that I was supposed to do that I forgot to do right before I go to bed, then I just write it down in Trello and it goes on my to-do list, and that gets it out of that negative thinking trap, because now I know it's written down and I'm not going to forget it. And so it's there. And then the last type of anxious thinking is the perfectionist. So avoid being the perfectionist. And there are many people, especially the way that schools are set up, at least in the US, then when you're getting graded on things and it's obvious, this is 100% and this is not 100%. And you go your entire life knowing this is what I need to do to get 100% on the test, then it's easy to fall into the trap of, oh, I always need to get 100%. And if I can't do it perfectly, like what perfect is, and you say to yourself, well, if I can't do it perfectly, I'm going to have trouble starting. Like, there's a lot of people who have real serious issues starting a project because they don't know how it's going to turn out at the end. And they're worried that it's not going to turn out perfect at the end. And it's very easy to fall into the trap of, I'm not going to start because I don't know how it's going to end. Or it's not even falling into the trap of that. It's just being anxious in your mind about starting because you don't know how it's going to end. It's a very common trap for perfectionists and for people who want to do well. And it's a noble goal. Like all of these things that I'm talking about, all the traps, the catastrophizer, the pessimistic thinking, what's the worst that could happen, the mind reader, thinking you know what's going to happen, like that shows, in some sense, when you're thinking about what the other person is thinking and what they're going to say, that shows empathy. The catastrophizer shows foresight and thinking about what could happen. The shooter shows that you're analyzing your actions and what you could do better. And the perfectionist shows that you want to strive to do your best. Like all of these are natural human tendencies that, our brains have naturally to be good human beings, basically. But if we take those natural tendencies and we take them too far, they go from being protective and good traits in a human to being bad traits in a human because we have overemphasized them. And that our brains are just getting out of control in that direction. And so, like, none of these things are inherently bad until they get out of control. And for some people, that perfectionist trap is it just gets out of control. And especially if you have lots of people around you. I mean, it's one, okay, let me write the sign that says the perfectionist. Oh, there I did. Avoid the perfectionist. One thing that we as people do is we see other people's outsides. And this is a good piece of mom advice, so I don't know if anybody wants to clip this part, but don't judge your insides compared to other people's outsides. So don't judge your insides based on other people's outsides, because everyone wants to put their best foot forward to the world and show their best side of themselves to the world, but you don't know what they were thinking to go into that. You don't know that person's feelings, and frequently you don't see that person's flaws, and you will frequently see their own flaws. So, for example, in sewing, then I will frequently know, okay, I've made this embroidered towel for somebody, and this is the part where my sewing machine got cut, and I accidentally cut the towel, and there's this teeny tiny little hole, like the size of a pencil, in the towel, and I know it's there, but the other person probably will never notice that little hole is there. And they'll just think, oh, wow, she does such wonderful art. And I think, oh my gosh, can I even give this to somebody? It's got a little hole in it, but it took me 4 hours and I don't really want to have to do it over again. And so try not to judge your insides based on, like, the things that you know, based on somebody else's outsides. And let's see here. So wheat. Let me store some wheat while we're at it. And yes, I know that these streams are not always the most... Oh wait, that's beetroot seeds, not beetroots. I know that these streams are not always the most coherent, especially the night of sleep, but I am doing my best and trying not to not do things because I'm worried about it not being perfect. And yes, yeah, exactly. You feel the same way with your drawings, noticing every small detail that's wrong, even though nobody else would. Exactly. And, it's great to have some self analysis, but if you let that form of self analysis stop you from going forward and stop you from making more drawings, then it becomes a problem. So you have to get out of those, out of the habit of those negative thoughts. And, oh, somehow I ran out of seeds. Okay, there we go. So how? So I've talked a lot about, okay, well, you need to get out of this trap of negative thoughts. And the question is, how do you get out of this trap of negative thoughts? And that's where you can start off with some self-help, but if you're continuously cycling in the trap of negative thoughts and you can't get out all by yourself, that's where having a therapist can help. Or for some people, especially like anxiety is one of those things that tends to be genetic. So that's where you go to. If you can't get out of those negative thoughts by yourself, seek professional help, because sometimes that's what it takes. But if you're not quite ready, or if your anxiety itself, you're worried about, okay, what will happen if I see a professional? So I would encourage you to go through the exercise of, well, what's the worst that can happen? Has anyone else ever seen a professional and has had a positive outcome? Go through that exercise. But if you are anxious about what will happen if, oh, there's a kitty. I don't have any fish. I'm sorry, kitty. I'd love to tame you, but I can't get you today. I'm just going to harvest the carrots instead. So what things can you do on the self-help side of things? So we've already talked the last couple of nights about sleep, exercise, and eating right. And those are critical, like absolutely critical, to make sure that you are taking care of sleeping, eating, and exercising. Although if you're having anxiety, sometimes the anxiety itself can get in the way of sleeping, eating, and exercising. And that's what you need friends or reminders or gamify it in some way to help yourself with making sure that you get your sleep. And, I should have started with potatoes. Oh, well, doesn't matter. To make sure that you eat right, get enough sleep, and exercise. So those are the big three important ones. And then I guess it also goes without saying, but hey, I'm a mom, so I'm going to say it, like, avoid drugs, don't smoke. Those, some people smoke because they're anxious, and that just makes no sense to me. Well, and it's like, because then they'll start feeling anxious, and so then they'll need to smoke more. And it's possible that maybe it might help for a little bit for the very first time, but then after the drug wears off, you always feel anxious when you're not smoking, so it's not helpful anymore. And the way our brain's dopamine receptors work, then you just kind of keep needing it more and more and more. And like, drugs are bad, don't do them, and it's really hard to stop once you start. And so like drugs and alcohol, I mean, alcohol, lots of people use it in moderation successfully, but if you're experiencing anxiety and you are using alcohol as a depressant to quell the anxiety, then you run the risk of running into an alcohol dependency problem. And so basically you run the risk of making things worse for yourself by using alcohol to self-medicate, basically. And same thing with marijuana. If it's legal where you live, it's still a really bad idea to self-medicate with marijuana. I'm full. What can I get rid of? We really don't need those seeds. Okay. So, where was I? So yes, drugs and alcohol, bad. And if you're having anxiety problems, then try to fix the chemical dependency problems as well, because the chemical dependency problems can make the anxiety problems worse. Like whenever you're running out of the drug, or like whenever you're in that low where the drug is wearing off, then that can add to increased anxiety. Okay, let's sleep so that we don't get any more creepers blowing up the fields. So let's see here. Action. So those are like the basic. Those are the big four. Is paying attention to sleeping, eating, exercise, and mental health. But what actions can you do? So when we talked at the very beginning about noticing in your body, how does your body respond when you are feeling anxious? So if you notice, oh, my breathing increases, my heart rate increases, my muscles get tense, I feel pain in my stomach because my stomach muscles have tensed up. So when you notice those things, there are things that you can do to help counter those physical effects. So one of them is, if you notice yourself breathing more rapidly, you can decrease your breathing speed by intentionally paying attention. Like most of the time, humans, we breathe without thinking about it. We don't have to think about our breath. Oops, I do not want to eat that potato. That's the problem with planting potatoes and carrots. So most of the time, you don't have to think about your breath, it just happens. But if it's happening naturally too fast, you can use conscious control of your breath. So you can intentionally breathe in. They say breathe in for 5, hold for 5, and then breathe out for 5 slowly. And the act of intentionally controlling your breathing, it's another one of those things that gets you into human brain mode as opposed to lizard brain mode. And the counting helps with that. So why is this not? Okay, whatever. I'm just not going to break that block. Okay. So breathing is another thing that helps. So let me where should I make it? Yeah, you do that breathing exercise a lot when trying to sleep. It's helpful. That's right. It is. So, I do not need to put headers on this. I'm just going to put things to do. 1, breathing. In, hold, out. Count of 5. 5. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there you go. Breathing. That is number 1. So number 2, when you're feeling anxious, is think about good things. So if you have, hold one positive memory and think about that one positive memory. So think about a positive memory. So think about a positive memory is another thing that they recommend. So especially if you've ever had a chance to relax or take a vacation, or if you have a special stuffed animal or thing that makes you happy, or person that makes you happy. If you have, a grandma or something that makes you feel good, then think about that memory and think about all the details of that memory. If you're having anxious thoughts that are starting to spiral out of control, then try to put the memory thoughts in the top so that you've got a positive thing in your head. And that is something that can help when you're catastrophizing and thinking about all the worst things that can happen. Think about the good things that can happen in life too, because there's got to be good things for everybody, or at least we certainly hope so. Or rather, if you have enough privilege to be here watching my live stream, then there's got to have been something good that happened in your life to get you to that point. So think about positive thoughts is another one. Think about having a brave attitude. So if the thing that you are concerned about is something that, people do, but maybe you haven't done before, then think about, okay, what would somebody who I admire, how would they tackle this problem? So think about a positive memory. Consider 3. Consider how someone you would handle. Consider how someone you respect would handle, going on an airplane or giving a speech or confronting an employee that you need to improve their behavior. That is something that is very, very difficult for managers to deal with and to think about. And that's a really hard circumstance when you need to do that. And to think about, okay, how would someone oops, that is not a seed. How did that happen? Okay. Yeah, I've made a conscious choice to be okay with it if I miss some plot, some parts in the plot, but it's very hard for me to ignore the empty spaces and the bad spaces, but I think it does go faster if I just kind of ignore them. I probably will collect more wheat per time. Sometimes I'm an optimizer. So yeah, so think about having a brave attitude and how would somebody else that you respect handle it? How would somebody who was brave handle this situation? And another attitude that you can adopt is think you can be successful. Like, consider the outcome where, like, sort of in opposition to the catastrophizer. Where is it? There we go. In opposition to the catastrophizer who thinks about what's the worst thing that could happen, think about what's the best thing that could happen. How could this go well? What would it look like if this goes well and happens successfully? So consider that as you're going along. And then your actions that you can do are, let's see here. Take deep breaths. Wait, did I already write that one down? I know I already said that. I was looking at multiple different sources, and I think I wrote some things down twice. So did I already say? Yeah, breathing. Okay, we've already got breathing down there. Thinking about good things. We've already got that. Use the skills that you have in your situation. So, 5, use your skill. So let's say you are confronting a difficult situation, like you've got a bullying problem at school or something, but you're a humorous person and you like to make jokes. Think about how can you use your skills of being a humorous person to help solve this bullying problem, as opposed to just being worried about, how am I going to go back to school again? How am I going to face another day with this person bullying me? And that is a possibility of figuring out, okay, or how can I use the skills that I have to improve this situation? So let's see here. I am all full again, aren't I? And this is full. This is not full. Let's fill that up a little bit. Okay. what else? Okay, use this. And other skills that you have are listening to people, encourage, or that you may have, listening to people, encouraging people. People watching my stream are probably gamers, so you have the skills of playing games and turning things into a game. How do you make it fun? If, let's say, you're falling into the perfectionist trap and you just can't start that paper that you need to write for school because you can't think of a topic to get it started, how can you gamify it and say, okay, if I write 50 words and if I write 50 words of the outline, then I'm going to let myself look at Dreams Offline chat for 5 minutes. And, oh, thank you. Yes, water check. I totally forgot. Thank you for reminding me. So otherwise, I'm going to wind up with headache. Thank you. Yeah, so use your skills. Let's see here. What do the rest of my notes have? I've got 10 minutes left. Okay. So yeah, coping thoughts. You know what? I am going to use my skills of going to sleep again because I don't want zombies. I don't want zombies on my lawn. I don't want zombies on my lawn. Okay. So yeah, coping thoughts. If you're worried about doing an action like writing a paper or giving a speech or things like that, then you can think, I've done it before and I can do it again, and think it's less scary than you imagine that it could be. You can think, I have done many things to prepare for this. I have written papers, I have done my research, I have prepared for this in the past, and trying is the most important thing for getting this paper done. I'm going to get something on the page, and just getting it started is the hardest part sometimes, and then you can revise afterwards. Let's see here. Yes, also think no one is perfect. Not everybody says the right thing in the right situation. Right now, everybody's probably heard is problem with papers is you keep starting over and over. Yes. Yeah, and sometimes you just have to say, you know what, it's not going to be perfect. I'm going to write something on the page, and once I've got something down, then I'll go back and revise it, and just write anything, anything. My husband used to say when he was in college, he wrote all his best papers starting after midnight, because before midnight, he would just go back and forth saying, I can't think of a good thesis. I don't know what I'm going to write. And then when it gets to be about midnight, it's like, I'm just going to write anything, and then come up with the material he needs to support it, and eventually just get it done. Sometimes the best papers are written under time pressure. And yeah, it can be tough to get those done. But just think, everyone makes mistakes, and no one is perfect. And that's one of those things on the internet with our, like, we've seen so much with what you'd call cancel culture, where people say something and they don't realize that, the thing, like, I think most people, okay, yes, there are some people who want to go out there and offend people on purpose. Like, if you think about the PKers from our talk on Bartle's gaming tops, there exist some people who just want to offend people to get a rise out of it. But I think most people don't want to offend people. And yet, so many people wind up in issuing internet apologies for, I had no idea that this tweet, I thought I was just being funny, or I had no idea. Okay, I'm a total Dream stan, so I will use Dream as an example. One of his recent tweets was somebody was upset at him for using Native American tribal music as background to one of the Minecraft manhunts that is sacred music that shouldn't be recorded, and he had just purchased it online and he had no idea. And so he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I won't do that again in the future. Thank you for letting me know." And, he's not perfect. Nobody is perfect. People make mistakes, and we have to recover from those mistakes. And hopefully, people can realize it, and you're not crippled. Like, I'm sure there's lots of people, especially celebrities out there right now, who are saying to themselves, I'm going to stop tweeting. Like, I'm just worried that no matter what I say, I'm going to make a mistake and say something wrong or offensive, and therefore I'm not going to do it at all. And I'm sure that there is a lot of anxiety out there over not wanting to be offensive, which I think, in some sense that's a good thing to not want to offend anybody, but it's also crippling if you don't keep moving forward. Like, if you just let your fear of not offending anybody keep you from making anything productive and making forward progress in the world, and making the world a better place. So a better, more fun, more entertaining place. So that is, let's see here. Yeah, so that's no one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. And think to yourself, I will be proud of myself as long as I try. And if, like, one of the modern narratives is, it doesn't matter what your intentions were. Like, when you're talking about offending people, it doesn't matter what your intentions were. It matters how the other person felt about it, which definitely makes sense. But at the same time, like, you want to be proud of yourself for trying. And if you realize afterwards that, oh, what I said was offensive, then it's important to learn from that and apologize for it. But you can't let the anxiety of it keep you from making forward progress, if that makes sense. I hope I'm trying to say this in a coherent and non-offensive way myself, because, offending people is kind of a bad thing to do, and we all want to try our best not to. But we also don't want to sit in paralyzation of it either, and being paralyzed by worrying about what we're going to say either, because that's bad for everybody. So the last thing, is this the last thing? The next thing that I have, the last thing on this page of notes, is for anxiety is meditation. So I might go a little bit over tonight. Hopefully you guys will forgive me for that. But meditation is basically sitting quietly, breathing deeply, and saying the same phrase over and over again. So I once took like a 6-week class on meditation. So this is definitely not going to do it justice. And there's many, many different forms of meditation. And it's important to recognize that when you're doing meditation, especially meditation for anxiety, at first, it's going to feel like it's weird and it doesn't work and it's not doing anything at all. And you're going to sit there and say, okay, I should be quieting my mind. And your mind is going to be going, silence, silence, silence. And it'll just be yelling, trying to get you to quiet your mind. Like, quieting your mind just doesn't work in the beginning. And they recommend coming up with one phrase that you repeat again and again and again, called a mantra. And so it could be something as simple as, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And just doing that over and over again. You can look up on the internet many examples of mantras that people use. And the thing is, with meditation, it's not just the meditation of that one time. when you're meditating, you are experiencing both where you are right then, and you are also experiencing all the other times in your life that you have meditated before. And so it's hard to describe, but if you practice at it and make it a regular part of your life, especially if you're experiencing anxiety, then, oops, I got really full, didn't I? Then the meditation that you're doing that one time, it's not just then, it's all the times that have come before, and it helps you get to that place. And I used to be, I used to really stink at meditation. And then I got into a meditative practice with some friends from church where it's like every Tuesday, then we would show up to just sit in the church and meditate and pray. And it became a habit. And once it was a habit, then it became so much easier to get myself into that state of mind, so that when, and especially doing it during a non-stressful time, like meditating at a time when things are not stressing you out, then it becomes not just then, but when you are stressed out, it gets so much easier to put yourself in that meditative state of mind. Yeah. So you know what? Maybe I will, because it's after 2 already, I will just do an entire separate one on meditation and all the different forms that meditation can take. Because there's a lot. Like you can do walking meditations. Okay, I won't even go into all the different kinds of meditation that can happen. But yeah, so I will do a different one on meditation, but I will close tonight with meditation is a good technique for dealing with anxiety, and especially if you get into those cycling bad thoughts, it can help bring you out of it again, especially if you've practiced. But if you haven't practiced, then trying it the first time doesn't help. It takes like multiple times of practice. You know, after a 6-week class, I still wasn't very good at it, and it was only after I'd been doing it for like 6 months every week that it became easier to get into that meditative mindset when necessary. So with that, the sun is setting, and I am going to say goodnight stream for tonight, but I will do a one. Maybe we'll start tomorrow picking up on the end of, because I still have another page of notes to share, but we'll do more tomorrow, and we'll focus on meditation tomorrow, because it's a cool thing. It works. All right, who shall we raid? Oh, thank you. Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad to meet you too, and it's fun for me to be there for you guys. It's sort of where is my mission field, and I just want to be there. It's fun. As I mentioned the other night, it's kind of thrilling to stream. It's exciting for me, and I'm doing my best, trying to do right by you guys. So let's see, who shall we raid? And good night, everybody.